Johann was the one who wanted to ask how his assistant knew so much about lunacy while he wasn't even sure if he guessed the meaning of manic depressive correctly. He decided, however, to tell Blyton about Eclipse, including what he knew about the Sherwoods and the incident, though he carefully left out anything in regard to the artificial mana potions.
What a terrible idea.
Was what Blyton said after hearing about Colton Sherwood's plan to transform Eclipse into an isolated community of lunatics.
What a terrible theory.
Was what she said after Johann told her about the alienist's thoughts on madness and statistics.
Well, I admit that it's certainly an interesting concept.
She started.
But since he thinks that any kind of society is possible, why don't you ask him if a society of suicidal people would be able to flourish?
Johann pondered his assistant's question. I never thought about asking that. Even if it's possible, I doubt that kind of society would progress very far.
Exactly. Don't you think he cherry-picked his examples? Not all traits that are statistically small in number are obstructive to society. For example, geniuses are in the minority, but it's advantageous to be one. We don't send them to the madhouse, do we? In fact, let's use his own example. I agree that a society of non-magic users can exist. In fact, they do in some parts of the world. But if a magician lived among non-magic users, instead of being mad, wouldn't his ability to use magic become a highly desirable trait?
Johann exclaimed, he might even be regarded as a superhuman.
Right? Instead of statistics deciding that's normal and abnormal, isn't it the other way around?
What do you mean?
Well, let's look at it from the perspective of evolutionary biology. Maybe personality traits and behavioral characteristics that cause mental illnesses were pushed to small statistical numbers because evolution favors others, more normal behaviors. In other words, society is made up of more rational people than irrational people, not because of random chance, his so-called accidents of statistics theory, but because those with rational thoughts and behaviors are more likely to survive and pass on their genes. Likewise, there are more sociable people than insociable or antisocial people. Why do you think that is? Because social traits naturally allow a society to function more optimally. Humans evolved to become social creatures to maximize their survivability. Think of it this way. Early humans had to fend off wild animals and deal with natural disasters like volcano eruptions and floods. The ones who stayed or traveled together in groups were more likely to survive than the lone wolves, right?
So what you're saying is, Johann said, behaviors that we consider normal aren't just normal because they cater to the majority, but because they themselves are useful evolutionary traits.
Yes, exactly. And that's why I don't believe patients with mental disorders should be isolated from normal society like what the alienist wants to do. Instead of making a lunatic utopia, why not help the patients recover from their illnesses? Why not help them attain the desirable traits that they lack?
Interesting, Professor Poe commented. I didn't know you cared so much about this subject. His assistant broke into laughter.
I guess I'm just interested in it. I've read a lot of books on psychology and stuff like that. I'm starting to think I'm not cut out to be a magical scientist.
She laughed again. Is that so? Johann was suddenly reminded of little Janis and her inability to use magic. Don't you think there is a close relationship between magic and the human mind? Perhaps by studying the human mind, we can deepen our understanding of magic.
Maybe.
Blyton agreed. You still don't have a topic for your capstone project, do you? Do you want to do your research on this?
What? The relationship between magic and psychology?
Yes. Alanis Blyton's eyes lit up as she considered Professor Poe's offer. It didn't take her long to give an answer.
Yes, please. I'd love to explore the magical mind.
I gazed at my reflection in the monster's beautiful big round eyes, noting the stark contrast between my expressionless face and the monster's curled lips. The monster's skirt flutters each time it takes a step forward.
Oh no, is this Janis dreaming of Candela?
No.
Yep.
Janis, it calls out to me in a sing-song voice that echoes endlessly. I keep watching. I can't move, or I can, but don't want to. I feel like I've been petrified by the monster's gaze. The Candela-shaped monster approaches one step and then another, but is still just as far and as close as when it started. And then the Candela-shaped monster giggles, raises its Candela's hand-shaped hand, and opens it in my direction. The Candela-shaped monster's palm gleams, then emits a ray of blinding light. I follow the ray with my eyes. I watch as it forms a straight line from its palm to the hole it punches through my chest. Blood spurts out from where my heart should be. Oh, I guess that means I'm dead. And then I see the familiar ceiling. No screaming, no sitting up with a jolt, no cold sweat. It's entirely unlike how waking up from a nightmare is depicted in theater plays or in storybooks.
She should have took Candela's pictures and put them on her wall as like mementos.
Yeah. I wouldn't even call it a nightmare. I watched myself get killed, believed I was dead, and was suddenly aware that I was lying awake in bed. I'm not even sure when exactly I woke up. But now that I know it was just a dream, I know I haven't been killed. I'm alive. Someone else who should be isn't. Candela. Why did Candela have to die? I remember Poe and Mrs. Sherwood discussing her death. I didn't understand a lot of what they were saying, but I think I got the gist of it. Candela died because of me. She lost control of her magic because my visit caused her mind to become unstable.
No.
It's not your fault, Janis. It was my fault.
It was those potions' fault.
It was Oriel and Mr. Sherwood's fault. I killed her. No, you didn't. It was all my fault. I murdered Candela. I'm a murderer.
Well, technically Poe and Oriel killed her.
Yeah, technically Poe and Oriel did that. Everything is my fault.
No, don't get down on yourself.
Yeah, Janis, don't. It's not your fault. It's all my fault. This is so frustrating. Darn it. I want to cry. Cry! I'm sad. I need to cry. Come on. Cry. I'll feel better after I cry. Cry, cry, cry. Cry! Cry!
Jeez, you're trying to force herself to cry? Maybe she's just in that depressive state.
Yeah. Cry! Gosh darn you, cry! My eyes remain dry. I'm stricken with grief, but I can't even shed a single tear. Frustrating. This is so frustrating, so maddening, so infuriating that it makes me want to scream. Scream at the top of my lungs. Scream with reckless abandon. Scream as loud as possible, so loud that even the gods and devils and whatever can hear it wherever they are. Scream and screech and shriek and shrill, and maybe I should go to the seclusion room. No, I'm not going there. People would be able to hear me scream. I don't want people to hear me screaming, but I really, really want to scream. I want to scream so bad. Ah! No, that was terrible, I know. See, I scream in my head. Ah! I'm a terrible screamer.
Oh, it's fine.
See, I scream in my head even louder. Oh, again? Okay. Ah! And louder and louder and louder. It's no use. Screaming in your head is like trying to quench your thirst with your own saliva. If anything, it just makes you crave water even more. What a stupid thing to do.
Oh, poor her.
Poor Janis, she's blaming herself for everything, and it's not even her fault. Drake wasn't her fault. Candela wasn't her fault.
Yeah.
The king's orders.
Chapter 13.
Sorry.
Hey, we're almost done.
Yeah.
Hey, it's Joff's house.
Oh, it's Joff's house?
Yeah, because remember we were here an octave higher, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we were here in an octave higher.
Unless this is like a side building he has.
And that's what happened, the professor concluded his report. Oh, thanks, we don't have to go through the whole explanation again.
Oh, that's
Anyway, Ida and Wolf had already heard about most of what happened yesterday from the officers on the scene, but Johann Poe's more detailed account certainly helped him understand the situation better. He glanced at Joff Godwin, who seemed to be more at ease than usual, though that was probably because he was in his own home. Iden asked him, "Is there anything you'd like to add, Joff?"
No.
The young lord answered.
I wasn't at Eclipse when the incident occurred. I was showing Colton Sherwood the factory I'm building. By the time we returned, Eclipse had already become sealed off by the police.
Iden didn't need to ask any more questions. He already knew what happened afterwards. Upon questioning, Colton and Oriel Sherwood had admitted to making their own mana potions, but denied the accusations that the potions were the cause of the incident, citing lack of scientific evidence. They were now under house arrest with Eclipse still completely blocked off by the police. That's the best they could do? I'm sorry, house arrest? It's like, no. See, a couple officers were stationed at the madhouse to keep an eye on the owners and their employees. It wasn't clear whether or not producing artificial mana potions was legal, since there were no legal precedents. Parliament could pass a law prohibiting the artificial creation of mana potions, but that would take time. The police could, however, arrest the Sherwoods on the grounds that their artificial mana potions had put the madhouse inmates in danger. That is, if the potions were indeed harmful. Were they, though? If they weren't, not only could Iden not arrest Colton and Oriel Sherwood, he couldn't force them to stop making the potions either.